Greetings, travelers. I am Piolo.
Hi everyone, I'm Angel.
And I am Zeke.
And welcome to Traveling with the Triplets.
For today's episode, we will embark on a journey back to the past
And discover the architecture of the prehistoric, ancient Near East, and Egyptian times.
Buckle up and enjoy the ride.
Our first destination is during the prehistoric time. Prehistoric time, as its name implies, refers to the period before history was written down prior to any kind of written explanation of culture and civilization. It is mainly divided into three ages or periods, namely Old Stone Age or Paleolithic period, Middle Stone Age or Mesolithic period, and New Stone Age or Neolithic period. These ages were subdivided and referenced according to the materials with which tools were made during those specific times. The climate during prehistoric times signified the end of the Ice Age and the beginning of a more temperate climate. This is where human migration and settlement first ensued and where traces of the first villages can be found in the Middle East, South and Central America, India, and China. Their main method of migration was either through boats or traveling by foot. The lands were also fertile, which explains the abundance of greenery during this period. Most prehistoric dwellings were constructed near lakes, rivers, streams, low hilltops, or caves because early men chose locations which could be defended against predators and rivals and were shielded from inclement weather. They also tend to make their dwellings out of the materials available to them in their vicinity. They had no organized religion but had developed practices for respecting the deceased through burial rituals and monuments. Some of their socio-political and historical aspects were the advanced method of hunter-gathering, fishing, and cultivation that were developed during this time. Their architectural characteristics involved the use of animal skin, wooden frames, and animal bones for their materials, caves, megaliths, and mud bricks for their construction materials, and cave paintings and sculpture for decoration. Some of the notable buildings during this time were caves, tents and huts, Molodova, Dolny Vestonis, Mezerich, Leantos, pit houses, timber frame houses, long houses, dry stone houses, menhir, dolmens, and Stonehenges. As we can see, prehistoric architecture was mostly characterized by the construction of temporary dwellings and monuments to commemorate the dead. These were built through the use of existing stone structures, wood carvings, or animal carcass. Now that we've covered prehistoric times, let us now travel to the 6th century BC to meet Piolo in the ancient Near East.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the ancient Near East, where hot and dry, mild winter with some rain is to be experienced. The ancient Near East is centered around Central Asia and the Eastern Mediterranean. An abundance of deserts and rivers in the Middle East and mountains in Central Asia are to be found here. Their religions include Muslim, Judaism, Christianity, Zoroastrianism, and Islamic, etc. In terms of the social-political aspect, social movements and activism are not relevant here. Architectural characteristics include relief carvings, hieroglyphics, standing sculptures, temples, and tombs. And lastly, notable buildings include the Great Ziggurat of Ur, the Ishtar Gate, the walls of the Babylonia, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, and the Palace of Sargon. Now that is the architecture of the ancient Near East. Now let us step a bit further and go to the Egyptian time. With Zeke, of course.
So, what's up, guys? I will be the last person who is going to talk about Egyptian architecture, where it was mostly common for its monumental temples and tombs and its pyramids. So, the first thing about Egyptian architecture is that Egypt only contains two seasons every year, which is spring and summer. The temperature is very warm and rain is very scarce, where this natural climate aided in preserving these historic buildings. They used small openings for natural light in their buildings, so there were really no use for windows. Egypt has a narrow line of fertile soil where crops can be planted along the famous River Nile, where the scope of the land also contains rugged cliffs and unfruitful land, where the most common material in Egypt was stone, where it was mainly used for buildings, statues, and personal ornaments due to the lack of metals in the country. They mostly used materials like stones, sand bricks, palm leaves, acacia, which is a type of wood, and sycamore. The religion of the Egyptian people was of a monotheistic form of culture, where they only believed that there is one God. But due to the introduction of polytheistic culture by cults, there began a worship of some sorts to natural events like the sun, moon, and stars, where they worship different types of gods depending on what they need. The history of Egypt that it has 30 dynasties, where it started in the 3rd millennium BC and all the way to the Roman Empire, where the country was part of the Persian Empire for at least 2 centuries, where the 1st to 10th dynasty is called Ancient Kingdom, and 11th to 17th dynasty was the Middle Kingdom, and lastly, the 18th to 30th dynasty, the New Empire. The architectural characters of Egypt is that of its simplicity, monumentality, solidity, or massiveness. The monumentality characteristic of Egypt is that of they built structures where they would worship certain deities, like temples. And the notable buildings in Egypt is, of course, the one of the eight wonders of the world, Pyramids of Giza, Karnak, Luxor Temple, Pyramid of Djoser, Hypostyle Hall, where Egypt usually contains of structures like pyramids, tombs, and temples. The preservation of these historical sites are easily maintained due to the natural weather and natural climate that it has. So since rain is very rare, it would not be able to damage these historical buildings. So that is it for me, guys. See you in the next one.